This episode of McCall's Quilting Quilt Along is brought to you by Benartex, fabric for quilters by quilters. Hi, I'm Laura Roberts, and I'm so glad you're joining me for the McCall's Quilting Glorieta Quilt Along. Glorieta is the quilt behind me, and it's incredibly beautiful. I wish you could be here in the studio with me to take a look at it. But you can look at the fabrics pretty well. And these fabrics, which are the same ones in the quilt and the same ones that are in the kit, are from Benartex. They're the Ribbon Floral Collection by Dover Hill. And if you were here with me, what you would see is these little bits of gold. These fabrics have tiny little bits of gold. It's not so gold that it's like screams Christmas, but it just adds a little sparkle. And I have to show you how pretty this is. When I saw these fabrics, I just wanted to keep them all, which, you know how that is when you see a fabric collection and you just think it's the most gorgeous thing ever. Isn't that pretty? And there are tiny little lines of the gold that just edge things. You don't see it right away. You get closer and it just sparkles. So this fabric collection is, it's really special. I think it's one of the prettiest ones I've ever seen. And I like the fact that there's one little solid in here because, you know, solids are really a part of the quilting scene these days. And I'm that generation when I started quilting, that was all we could get, was solids. And so for a long time I sort of resisted solids coming back, but I really like this one in this quilt. For some reason it adds a peacefulness, like a calm place for your eye to just sort of rest. So this collection is gorgeous, and the whole thing just sings together. So that's one reason that I'm glad you're joining me, and I hope you order the kit so you get the exact same fabrics. But I want to tell you what we're going to be doing. This quilt has a lot going on that isn't hard to do, but it's sort of unusual. For instance, in some of the flying geese, the big triangle in the center is something that's actually pieced from two strips and a triangle, and then you trim it and that becomes your flying geese center. And then another thing that's really interesting about this quilt, if you look at it, the center is just like a regular quilt. You know, it's a square center that borders are added to, but then all of a sudden that whole center goes on point, and now you have borders that are pieced, but they're not like strips. These are made from half blocks. They're triangles that you piece, and then you set them together sort of end to end to end to end, and they become that really beautiful diagonal border. And well, then of course you've got the triangles at the big outer corners, and they have to be filled with something, right? So you have yet another kind of block. We have 5 blocks in this quilt, and I'm going to be teaching you some techniques that will make it really easy for you to be successful. And it's important because this quilt is loaded with bias. So if you've been afraid of working with bias, this is the perfect quilt along for you, because I'm going to show you how to control bias and how you can succeed with bias when when you pin something together and it's not matching, and how do I do that? Do I torque that underneath piece, or what do I do to line them up, and is it okay to pull one? So we're going to work through that. And then I'm going to show you something that isn't really in this quilt, but it's something I want to show you. When you have a fabric like this one, or the purple one, this is a directional fabric, which means, if you don't know, that it has a direction. In other words, it's not going to look this way, it looks very different from this way. And one of the things I'm going to show you how to do is how to think ahead before you cut patches for a block, and how to piece it so that you can have all of these running in the same direction, so that all of your background fabric is running in the same direction. It takes a little thinking ahead of time, but it's something I can teach you how to do so you can apply it to any quilt you want to. And as I say, it's not part of the pattern. It's not actually in this quilt, but I think it's such a cool thing, and it's such a good opportunity to show you. So we're going to be doing that, and then we'll be doing a review of 1/4 inch seams, which are really, really important, and match points and when and how to use them. And they're actually important in this quilt because, again, you've got bias edges going onto bias edges. And in order to make sure that that seam ends up the right length, you're going to need match points. So I'm going to remind you how to make them and how to use them. And then we'll put it all together, and you'll have this incredibly beautiful quilt. And Again, I wish you were right here with me so you could take a look. It's one of the prettiest quilts you'll ever see. And it's peaceful and it's really lovely to sew on. I found myself just enjoying the fabrics, and that's really important because some quilts we just speed on through and you don't really sort of let yourself sort of sit in there with the fabrics and just kind of enjoy them. But this quilt, because of the way it's made, you find yourself taking a little more time and going back to the rhythm of really enjoying what you're sewing instead of just trying to get it done. So it's a really great quilt to make, and I think this will be a really good quilt along. I learned a lot making this quilt, believe it or not, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. So if you want to get the kit, and I hope you do because I really want you to see these fabrics, for the same fabrics in the quilt, just visit mccallsquilting.com/quiltalong, and you can get all the information there for ordering the kit, and it'll be worth it. Trust me, these fabrics are great. So I can't wait to get started. I'll see you back here next time, and we will start our fabulous journey together in this gorgeous floral quilt. This episode of McCall's Quilting Quilt-Along is brought to you by BetterTex, fabric for quilters by quilters.